So, Andrew Huberman, I've drawn first blood, guys. I drew first blood. I told you guys, I have a massive problem with somebody trying to sell you products, trying to look smart. And that could be a book or that could be supplements. But doing it with information that just simply isn't true. And it always turns into this really interesting game, right? It ends up in this real back and forth of what's scientific and what's provable and and then you just go, where's your application? As simply as that, well, I got this data, let me show you this sheet. And this study was done out at Stanford. Like, this will never go away. You'll get somebody to make a ridiculous statement and tell you that they were told this by somebody who works in the Pentagon. That is a very common one. If you follow like the world of politics, that's a very common one. Or the person was within the CIA. Or their father is gone, but was in a room prior to his death with colonels and generals. And it's one of these things, right? There's 5,000 seats, 5,000 desks at the Pentagon, just so you understand. To act like a madman couldn't get one of those desks would be silly. And the same thing would go with the CIA. Like, when you try to attach those things, like, things can just get really weird really fast. You either have proof that this has happened. You either have an example or you don't. When it comes to the world of nutrition, you will be told this, and you probably have, that eating a bowl of rice is the same as having a bowl of sugar. You've all been told that many, many times. I took a course in college where if I didn't check that box on the test, I would get the question wrong, and it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just silly. But they can break it down scientifically, and they can show you about the insulin and the glycogen, and they can show you what it does and how it transfers and how it gets stored, which is the exact same way that sugar does. They do that. But then you can point to extremely non-obese countries who embrace white rice as a natural and daily part of their diet. And they're stuck. And they're completely stuck. And when you make them look like a fool, they will then want to talk about the husk or the process or the washing or something that went in with the rice to change. It's just silly. You're beat. You said something stupid and you got beat. And I don't take a great joy in doing this with Huberman. I don't have a choice because somebody that I respect, somebody that I go to for information, Derek, more plates, more dates, pushed out, period. Derek knew what Huberman was telling him wasn't true. He knew it. He was smart enough and he knew it. But he was worried about going head-to-head because of the initials PhD and the University Stanford that Huberman attached himself to. In addition to that, and moreover on a human level, Huberman was extremely polite to Derek. So Derek let it go. But Derek has a lot of people that turn to him, that listen to him, that believe in what he says. I happen to be one of them, but now it's tough now. I mean, this was a real blow to watch Derek bitch out from confrontation just because the guy was polite and had a lab at Stanford and the initials PhD behind him. It was a really interesting thing. And it was really disappointing. And when you have a guy like Huberman, very few people can actually test this. And I just happen to live in this world. I came from martial arts to explain to you in 1987 when I had my first ever practice, my first ever interest in martial arts, to explain to you what would work in the industry back then would now make you laugh. But we didn't know a guy could have secret moves and he could have secret techniques and he could kick you this way with his toe pointed out and he could touch you in the stomach. They used to tell us that we had Green Berets in this country that could kill you 7 different ways with their thumbs. Those Green Berets, which I truly respect and appreciate, some of them believe it. It's easy to make somebody believe something if they never test the theory. And martial arts gyms used to do the same thing. This guy got secret techniques. You got to pay to have them. First guy that I ever met, very good friend of mine to this day, Sam Ayler, that was actually in karate. He was actually taking courses, would tell me when I'd ask, I'd beg him. Oh, I would beg him to show me something. I was so into fight. My parents wouldn't take me. I had to go to wrestling break. They wouldn't take me over to karate where I could actually learn how to fight. They wouldn't take me to kung fu and aikido, like the things that actually work. I'd beg him. He couldn't show me. He said, I can't show you. You can come with me. He invited me. He welcomed me. could borrow one of his uniforms. I could go, but he can't show me. And he couldn't show me because the teacher was very clear. Don't ever do these moves outside of here, no matter what. I will teach you self-defense and offense, but if it actually comes to that, do not use this. Do not defend yourself. You don't need to. You're too dangerous. These are too lethal. And he never showed me. We were in 4th grade at the time that happened. Fast forward to 1995 and just coming out of high school. Karate and Kung Fu and Aikido and martial, all the things that I thought was real, because that's what Hollywood taught me, got so destroyed in actual application in the octagon that they told their students, stop watching, stop supporting. We could have actually won all of those matches. Our guys had the discipline to hold back because our techniques are too ruthless. And as much as you're starting to see like the cracks, right, you go, man, this is a problem. They still did it. And people would still go to those gyms and they would stop watching and supporting. The marketing plan of mixed martial arts went up in smoke. They thought they were going to have all the martial arts gyms coming and caring and wanting to see and learning and adapting. That's not what happened. And I just share with you, when I see somebody like Huberman, right? I hope you understand what I'm saying. You could get away with that in martial arts because there was no application. There was no octagon. There was no pay-per-view. Nobody actually knew. So you could sell DVDs and covers and you could tell people, secret, don't show anybody. Don't even use this on anybody. But give me some money and I'll show you so you at least have the confidence. You will at least know how to do it. That worked. That was a real thing. So when you have a guy like Huberman that's coming out with just nonsense, just absolute nonsense, he is scientific proof that fasting will up your testosterone, that more fasting will up your growth hormone. Quite frankly, I'm not positive that I'm close enough on these, right? Scientific proof your growth hormone could go up 4 times if you sauna. Scientific proof that if you will exercise and push yourself as though somebody is chasing you with a syringe full of poison, right? Like he's saying these things knowing that the group that he's saying it to is never going to do it and never has done it. Like this is never actually going to get tested. It's the karate teacher or the Aikido teacher that has an 80-year-old woman that could break your neck if she wanted to. But I've told her not to do it. It's one of these things, like you can get away with it so long. Huberman comes out with this BS story, and I find it. What's he going to do now? I was a wrestler. The absolute only craft on God's earth that they weigh you in before they let you do it. The only one. He forgot when he was telling these lies, he forgot, my God, there's actual people that do this. It's not a matter of you need to go fast. I don't think many people will do it. And if they do, I can tell them they did it wrong, or they did it for 8 hours. I can tell them, well, it needs to be 12 hours. Like whatever the plan was to buy himself some time. We have wrestling teams all over. We share this. I'm on threads, and this is on forums, and we're all out of it. What a snake oil salesman, right? And there's guys like this, and I have to get to it first. There was a place at Nike, which is right behind me. It was the Lance Armstrong building, and people were going around wearing these bracelets for Lance Armstrong. There were these yellow bracelets. I lived at the Olympic Training Center. Lance Armstrong's name was a 4-letter word. All the athletes knew he was cheating, and he was profiting, and he was beating honest people. We all knew it. I even said this on the Jim Rome show, and they threatened me. Sponsors, Nike threatened me. Nike was one of my sponsors. They threatened me. How could you say such things about this wonderful Lance? And it's just one of these really weird spots. So Huberman comes out with a BS story and doesn't think he's going to have a group of people that fasted. I grew up as a wrestler. And this isn't just me that can personalize. I've got hundreds of other focus points. Then he talks about you can do a sauna and you can double and triple your testosterone, your growth hormone. That is insane. I have taken endogenous growth hormone and endogenous testosterone, and I can't make it go up 4-fold in that. And I saunaed, by the way, while fasting after training extremely hard as though somebody was chasing me with a needle full of poison for years. This was a normal thing. The collegiate wrestlers worked very hard. Nobody will dispute that. The collegiate wrestlers had to fast. Nobody would dispute that. The collegiate wrestlers every single day, without exception, would sauna after practice. It was the best part. It was so hard and it was so grueling, but you get in that sauna. Now, it's hard to breathe. It's hot in there. You get a little game going. Who's going to go out first? They kind of get your system down, where to sit, when to come down to the bottom row as opposed to exchange up here. And then it's story time. So when I tell you everybody did it, everybody did it. And when I left the University of Oregon and I went up to the Olympic Training Center, we did it there too. When I left the Olympic Training Center and I came back to Oregon to go into the pros, the American top team in Portland, we did it there too. Every day. Guys that are fasting every day. Guys that are in a sauna every day. And Huberman thought he could go out and tell these lies as though you're not going to find that disciplined person. I grew up with them. I grew up with them. I have hundreds upon hundreds of focus points. And believe me when I tell you, not one. When you're a guy like Huberman and you think you're going to come speak to the masses because you're a simpleton, right? He's just a simpleton. I mean, come on, he's a very nice guy. He's a very sweet guy. He believes some of the things that he's saying. He's got other ways to make money. He's an educated guy. He believes it. But there's a reality. Whether he believes it or not, there's a reality that he's wrong. And I've just given it to you in application. I don't have the charts. I don't have the blood. I don't need to. Any of you that got someone in the family or a classmate or that was a wrestler are going to look and go, my God, Chael's right. That guy did everything Huberman is promising you. If you do, you will double and triple your testosterone, your growth hormone. They're going, it's not true. Yeah, it's not true. It's ridiculous that he says it. But it is one of these situations where when he did it, he didn't think he was going to find that person. He thought it was going to be the masses. He thought it was going to be the little old lady in Iowa. He thought he could get attention, and it was tough. It was tough. Look, Rogan knows that stuff too. I'm not putting it on Rogan. Rogan knew that Huberman wasn't telling him the truth. Rogan, who was a martial artist and an athlete and surrounded himself in jiu-jitsu gyms and sees this every day, people that are fasting, that work like somebody's chasing you with a needle, and that he knew, but it wasn't his job. So I'm not mad at you. It wasn't his job. Huberman was being a gentleman, and Huberman truly did believe it. He did. I mean, Huberman's got a whole piece that I watched for 8 minutes. If you procrastinate, you want to know how you can stop procrastinating? Would you like to know? Would you like me to tell you right now? You don't have to watch the 8 painful minutes that he puts out. Would you like to know if you're tired during the day, how to fix that? Which is another painful 8 minutes that is missed out. Would you like to know? Because I can tell you in 4 seconds. Take your eyes and look up. Watch me. Are you ready? Look up. Now you got to hold that for 30 seconds. But there is psychological and neurological, right? And this is a big word that BS artists love to throw out. Neurological. There are some neurological studies that will show that if you look up and hold that for 30 seconds, you can't be tired. Try it. Try to fall asleep sometime while you're looking. I mean, it's just one of these things, right? And it's so silly to say, which, by the way, it could work. I mean, you could go out and try that. You could go be tired, look up, but you're going to have a massive placebo effect, as I've told you. But you could go look up and hold it for 30 seconds, and all of a sudden, be ready to out and move. But could you imagine? Could you imagine that study actually being, there was a neurological study done at my labs in conjunction with this other lab on the campus of Stanford University. You guys remember this? We had this thing going around about the science of masks. Do you remember that? Mask science. I'm okay with that. I'm not one of the weirdest, boy, I put them on and put them on my whole family. But think about that for just a second, okay? I will support my children through their years of education. And if that means college and that's the route they go, then old Chael's still going to be working, and I'm going to cover that for them. When I'm covering it, whatever pain that means, more years of work, more investment, more sacrifice, refinance the house like so many do, whatever that means. If my kid comes home and we're having a nice family dinner and it's so good to see him again, he's in the science department, he's at a beautiful university that I'm paying for, and I ask him, what have you been up to? What is it you've been studying? He tells me that he was studying masks. That conversation has never happened in any household anywhere in this country. But when they needed a study, they came out to, well, the science of masks. there is no science on masks, just so you understand. There is no good science to tell you that if you look up, you'll stop procrastinating. There is nothing accurate about being in a sauna and your growth hormone quadrupling. There is nothing true that if you fast, your testosterone can go up. There is a lot of truth. If you're trying to look a certain way or get in a certain shape, that if you go out and you work so hard that it's as though somebody's chasing you, like, right, that's just good sense. There's no science that's needed. There was no lab that was needed. Derek does not believe a word Huberman says. But Huberman was nice to Derek, and he pushed out. Rogan didn't believe a word Huberman said. But he made good conversation, and people clicked on it, so we had him back as a guest. That's just the truth. I give Rogan a pass. That's not his job. If Huberman came on with me, I don't know that I would be confrontational with him. I would talk to him and let him say his piece. If you have a guest, I would treat him like a guest. But to draw a distinction between Huberman and the Liver King isn't the world's easiest thing to do. I mean, I watched the Liver King a couple weeks ago because this was an experiment for me, okay? I told my partner, Ryan Parsons, look, I think he can get through it. And he told me, absolutely, he's a doctor, very smart guy, my partner. He said, Chael, it can't be done. And Ryan has had to help a number of people. He used to be an MMA manager. He's had to repair images, right? He's partners with me, so he's a bit of an expert in repairing an image when he needs to. He said it can't be done for the Liver King. He said he came out and he told people a certain thing. He promised them, and it turned out he was lying. You can't come back. I said, you could be right, but you don't get to win the argument today. I remember specifically what I told Ryan Parsons. I said, Ryan, you don't get to win today, but I don't either. We have to wait at least 2 months and then look back. We have to look and see what happened. And what was so unique with the Liver King is while he was lying and while that whole thing was ridiculous, he did it in a silly and ridiculous manner. There's no reasonable guy that has a beard that's as disgusting as that, or long, greasy hair that's as disgusting as that. There's no reasonable guy that is pulling plates through a wooded area before he builds his campsite on a bareback horse. There's no reasonable guy that then has a camera crew with him. You understand that? He's telling you to live this ancestral way. He has a camera crew. And he's not bringing this to you by sketching it out on a rock like they used to do, putting rocks in order to spell words and show directions of the sun. He's telling you on something called the internet. There's nothing prehistoric about this. It was a show. That wasn't his natural speaking voice. This was a show. He doesn't eat food raw. My God, he's got a wife and children. It'd be illegal to give it to the kids. And his old lady's not going to put up with that. He's telling you about this ancestral lifestyle and then telling you that he's got his personal chef. I mean, in all fairness, it was never meant to be all that serious. I thought he could come back. And above everything, he apologized in character. Brian Johnson is his name. Brian Johnson did not apologize to you. The Liver King did. And I personally just thought that was fascinating and that was different. I told Ryan we're going to have to wait a couple of months. Well, a couple of months have gone by. So I went yesterday to a Liver King page on TikTok, and he was sitting at a table, outdoor, sitting at a table, and he grabs an egg. And there was a whole stack of eggs, and I thought it had been cooked. I thought it was a cooked egg. He puts it into his mouth, and I hear the crunch. It was the shell. It was a raw egg and a shell. Which, from what Mrs. Panicello told me, who was a beautiful and wonderful cooking teacher in 1993 at Westland High School, will give you salmonella, but this is why I'm sharing this with you. Like the fact that the Liver King did steroids and said he didn't, or said you could look like this if you just get the sun and you get outside, whatever his stupid stuff was. Set all of that aside. This is disgusting, and it's a dangerous diet that he's giving you. And if you wanted to do it, even if it meant to look like him, right? If I've got to eat raw eggs, and I have a wife and children, I have my own chef, and I'm putting raw food on the table, But that's what I have to do. I have to do that to have a six-pack. I now no longer want the six-pack. And if you do, you're a weirdo. This isn't Chael's opinion. If you're eating a raw egg for any reason, you're a weirdo. Just so you understand that. And please don't give me a silly example. What if the guy was starving to death? If the guy was starving to death, he did not get into a chicken coop and find the eggs that were raw. Bad example. If he went and shoplifted them at the store, he would have taken a Snickers, which you can find up his sleeve, not a carton of eggs. There is literally no reason, unless you're a weirdo, to eat a raw egg, and that was my bigger problem. And as I'm having a problem as I'm observing this, Mark Coleman comes to his aid. Mark the Hammer Coleman is back in the gym. He's working out. He's claiming to be sober. Nobody likes a quitter. You know, he's claiming he's sober. Said sober is cool. I have never tasted alcohol. I'm what you would call a square. And take it from me, it's not cool. It's responsible. It's ethical. It allows for productivity. Your day doesn't have to end at 6 o'clock. You can work into the night and make a hell of a lot more money if you stay sober, but it's not cool. The whole thing is weird. And now Coleman wants to come back and he wants to slap fight Tim Sylvia. In fact, he's already accepted the match. And the company that was going to put out the press release, and Tim Sylvia came over the top of it and said, I promise you all that will not happen, meaning I'm not going to do that. And I don't tease the Hammer. I love that he's back in shape. I love that it's cool. Mark Coleman is an absolutely wonderful guy. But Mark Coleman is a champion of the world. And not only was he the world champion who went into the Hall of Fame, he trained a world champion named Kevin Randleman who went into the Hall of Fame. Mark Coleman doesn't have to carry the jock of a fake natty around. It's weird. He thinks the Liver King every single day. He's thinking the Liver King. For what? What did he do? And don't be like him, Hammer. If you're sober and you're in the gym, boy, you've got my respect, but call me. Don't think if you get some sunshine that your life's going to get, but don't think if you're eating raw eggs that your life is getting better. Don't think if you're eating bone marrow and this raw meat that your life's getting better. It would make you a weirdo. Hammer's not a weirdo. Hammer's a great guy. But when you hear the distinctions between the Liver King and this Huberman guy, they are very close. One of them is a lot more down to earth and basic. One of them is a lot more scientific with the white lab coat and talking about the PhD and dropping Stanford. Every single chance he gets, he drops Stanford. I get the credibility of Stanford. Believe me, I understand these things. They're both dishonest. And in a best case scenario, you have people that are just wrong. But when you're a PhD, it's completely different. You now don't get to put out a hypothesis. You have to put out things that are proven studies. And Huberman doesn't have one person that fasted, and I do mean not one, whose testosterone quadrupled. He doesn't have one person that sauna'd, and their growth hormone, known as your IGF-1 track, quadrupled. It's dishonest. Period.